Steven Universe is a show that's all about love and acceptance, but it's also full of characters who have powerful life lessons to share, if you're willing to look past the jokes and the heartbreak. From Steven's determination to help others, to Garnet's calm strength, to Amethyst's journey towards self-worth, these lessons shape the whole world of the show in ways that feel deeply real and profoundly human. In this video, we're going to be talking about one life lesson from every Steven Universe character. But before we start our video, make sure to subscribe. Steven. Let's start with Steven Universe. He's a 14-year-old kid who's half human, half alien rock person. His mom was Rose Quartz, a rebel gem who fought against her own kind to protect Earth. And his dad is Greg, a washed-up musician who lives in a van. Steven lives with 3 alien women called the Crystal Gems, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, who are basically his guardians and teachers. He's got magical powers like summoning a shield, healing people with his spit, and fusing with others to become a completely different person. But here's the thing about Steven. In a world full of superpowered beings who solve problems by fighting, Steven's greatest strength is his ability to understand people and respond to their pain with a genuine care. And that's not just some nice character trait, it's literally his superpower. Steven Universe teaches us that empathy is actually a superpower that can solve problems other methods can't. While most heroes punch their way through conflicts, Steven shows us that understanding someone's pain and responding with genuine care can literally heal wounds, rebuild relationships, and even save the world. This is a practical skill that works when everything else fails. Let me show you 3 episodes where Steven's empathy does what brute force couldn't. In Mindful Education, Connie is falling apart because she accidentally hurt a kid at school. Her training instincts kicked in when someone bumped into her, and she basically body slammed an innocent student. She's so ashamed that she can't even function properly. She and Steven can't stay fused as Stevani because her guilt is literally tearing them apart. Now, here's what's brilliant about Steven's response. He doesn't tell Connie to get over it or minimize what happened. Instead, he says something that hits deep. I know what it's like. Sometimes you hurt people by accident. He shares his own pain about having to hurt Bismuth, Jasper, and Eyeball Ruby. But people he tried to help, but he wouldn't listen. When Connie sees Steven's hallucinations of these traumatic moments, she doesn't run away. She tells him, you have to be honest about how bad it feels so you can move on. This is empathy in action. Not just understanding someone's pain, but sharing your own vulnerability to show them they're not alone. In Monster Reunion, Steven does something even more radical. He uses his healing powers on Centipedal, a corrupted gem monster. But here's the thing, his healing only works partially. She becomes more humanoid, but still can't speak properly or think clearly. Most people would call this a failure and give up. Steven doesn't. Instead of seeing a failed experiment, he sees someone struggling to communicate. He brings her chips because he remembers they're her favorite. When she can't talk, he gets out crayons so they can draw together. Through her artwork, Steven learns that Centipedal was actually a ship captain who got separated from her crew during the war and was corrupted by the Diamond's attack. The real breakthrough comes when Steven realizes what she actually needs. Not more healing, but reunification with her crew. He takes her to the old ship where her corrupted crewmates have been waiting for her all this time. Steven's empathy helped him understand that sometimes healing is about helping find where they belong. In The Message, the Crystal Gems are panicking because they can't decode a message from a wailing stone. Their advanced gem technology isn't working, and they're frustrated. When Greg offers to help with his primitive Earth audio equipment, Pearl basically dismisses him as useless. Steven sees his dad's disappointment and refuses to accept it. When Greg's first attempt fails and the other gems walk away, Steven stays with his dad and listens to him sing about feeling inadequate. Instead of just comforting Greg, Steven actually pays attention to what his dad is saying about audio versus video. This gives Steven the insight they need. Maybe the message isn't just audio. Maybe it's video too. Steven convinces the gems to give Greg another chance, and together they successfully decode Lapis's warning message. Garnet even thanks Greg personally, which clearly means the world to him. Steven's empathy for his dad's feelings led to the solution none of them could find alone. Here's why Steven's empathy is actually revolutionary, and why your friends who think feelings are weakness are dead wrong. First, empathy gives you information that you can't get any other way. When Steven listens to Connie's guilt, he learns what's really breaking their fusion. When he pays attention to Centipedal's drawings, he discovers her tragic backstory. When he notices Greg's hurt feelings, he realizes his dad might have valuable insights. Empathy is literally a data gathering tool that reveals what people actually need. Second, empathy creates solutions that force can't. You can't punch someone's trauma away. You can't threaten a corrupted gem back to sanity. You can't intimidate your way to understanding alien technology, but you can create emotional safety that allows healing. You can provide the connection someone desperately needs, and you can build bridges between different types of knowledge. Third, and this is the controversial part, empathy requires more courage than violence. It's easy to hit something when you're angry or scared. It's terrifying to be vulnerable, to admit your own pain, to sit with someone else's suffering without trying to fix it immediately. Steven consistently chooses the harder path because he understands something most people don't. Real strength comes from connection, not domination. But here's what makes this lesson practical for real life. Empathy is about recognizing that everyone's behavior makes sense from their perspective, and that understanding those perspectives gives you the power to influence situations positively. Whether you're dealing with a difficult coworker, a struggling friend, or even international conflicts, the person who truly understands what others are feeling and needing will always have more options than the person who just reacts with force. Steven shows us that empathy is actually strength disguised as softness. In a world that's increasingly polarized and angry, that might be the superpower we need most. Steven shows us that empathy can change the world in ways violence never could, but Garnet proves that knowing who you are is the only way to survive it. Garnet, the leader of the Crystal Gems, a fusion of two smaller gems named Ruby and Sapphire who fell in love thousands of years ago. She's got future vision, wears cool shades, and punches things with giant gauntlets, but most importantly, she's completely secure in who she is. And that's not as easy as it sounds. Garnet teaches us that staying grounded and true to yourself is literally what keeps you alive and functioning when everyone around you is falling apart. In a world that constantly tries to break you down, tear you apart, or convince you that you're wrong for existing, knowing exactly who you are becomes your superpower. Let me show you 3 episodes where Garnet's unshakable sense of self saves the day. In Jailbreak, Steven finds himself trapped on a homeworld ship with all the crystal gems captured. He discovers that Garnet has been split apart into Ruby and Sapphire and helps them reunite. When they fuse back into Garnet, she's immediately ready to fight Jasper, this massive warrior who's been destroying everyone. But here's the thing. Jasper tries to get under Garnet's skin by calling fusion a cheap tactic to make a weak gem stronger. She's basically saying Garnet is fake, that she's cheating, that she's not a real person. How does Garnet respond? She laughs and says, "No, you haven't," seeing what she really is. Then she sings "Stronger Than You" while absolutely demolishing Jasper in combat. The whole song is Garnet explaining exactly who she is and why that makes her unbeatable. "I Am Made of Love" is her stating the fundamental truth about herself. She knows she exists because Ruby and Sapphire choose to be together. She knows her strength comes from that choice, that love, that commitment. Jasper can insult her all she wants, but you can't shake someone who knows exactly what they're built on. In The Answer, we get Garnet's origin story, and it's all about the moment Ruby and Sapphire discovered who they could be together. Ruby was supposed to be just another disposable soldier, and Sapphire was supposed to accept her fate as an aristocrat who sees the future but never changes it. But when Ruby saved Sapphire's life, they accidentally fused and created something completely new. The really powerful moment comes when they're hiding on Earth after escaping. Ruby is panicking about failing her mission, but Sapphire tells her, "You already saved me." They start talking about what it felt like to be fused, how they felt like a one person instead of two separate ones. They're literally discovering who they are together, and instead of being scared of this new identity, they embrace it. When they meet Rose Quartz and Pearl, Garnet is confused and asks a bunch of questions about what she is. Rose's response is perfect. "You already are the answer." Garnet doesn't need anyone else to validate her existence or tell her she's allowed to be who she is. The answer was always love. Ruby and Sapphire's love for each other, which creates Garnet. In keeping it together, Garnet faces something that challenges her understanding of fusion itself. They discover that the homeworld has been taking shattered crystal gems and forcing their pieces together into horrible, unwilling fusions. These aren't real fusions like Garnet. They're gems stuck together against their will, screaming to separate. Garnet is so traumatized by this, she starts to unfuse involuntarily. For someone whose entire identity is based on fusion being a choice made out of love, seeing fusion used as torture nearly breaks her apart. But here's what's crucial. Steven reminds her, "This isn't like you." And she pulls herself back together. Later, Garnet explains to Steven that these forced fusions aren't real fusions at all, because fusion is a choice. She knows the difference between what she is and what Homeworld created because she understands herself completely. Her strength doesn't come from being forced together. It comes from Ruby and Sapphire choosing each other every day. Here's why Garnet's lesson matters in real life. We live in a world that constantly tells us we're too much or not enough, that we need to change ourselves to fit in, that our identity is wrong or broken or needs fixing. Social media shows us endless versions of who we could be. Instead, people tell us our relationships are weird, our dreams are unrealistic, our values are outdated. Garnet shows us that when you know who you are at your core, when you understand what you're made of and why, all that external noise becomes irrelevant. She can fight Jasper because she knows her strength is real. She can embrace being a fusion because she knows it comes from genuine love. She can resist forced fusion because she understands the difference between choice and coercion. Garnet does change and learn throughout the series, but she never loses sight of her fundamental identity as the embodiment of Ruby and Sapphire's love. That's her anchor point, her true north, the thing that keeps her grounded no matter what chaos is happening around her. The controversial truth is that most people don't actually know who they are. They know who they think they should be, who others want them to be, who they were yesterday or who they hope to become tomorrow. But very few people can look in the mirror and say with complete confidence, "I am made of love and it's stronger than you." Garnet teaches us that self-knowledge is survival. When you know what you're made of, nobody can break you apart. Garnet shows us the power of knowing who you are, but Amethyst shows us how hard it is to believe you're enough when you don't. Amethyst. Amethyst is the wild child of the crystal gems, a purple quartz who came out of the ground wrong, according to everyone else's standards. She's messy, loud, eats garbage, and shapeshifts into wrestling personas, but underneath all that chaos is someone who's constantly battling the feelings that she's not good enough, that she's a mistake, that everyone would be better off without her. And that's exactly why her story matters so much. Amethyst teaches us the hardest lesson of all. You're enough exactly as you are, even when everything inside you screams that you're not. This is about learning to stop apologizing for existing and start recognizing that your perceived flaws might actually be your greatest strengths. Let me show you 3 episodes where Amethyst fights this battle. In On the Run, we discover Amethyst's biggest secret. She was made on Earth in a place called the Kindergarten, where Homeworld was literally draining the planet's life to create more gems. When Pearl explains that this place was where bad gems came to grow more bad gems, and calls them parasites, Amethyst completely loses it. She screams at Pearl, "I'm not gonna let you stand here and remind me of everything I hate about myself. I never asked to be made." This is years of shame and self-hatred pouring out. Amethyst has been carrying the weight of feeling like she's fundamentally wrong, that her very existence is a mistake that hurt the planet she now protects. But here's what's powerful about this episode. Pearl realizes she messed up. She tells Amethyst, "You're the one good thing that came out of this mess. I always thought you were proud of that." The lesson is that she needs to stop seeing her origin as proof she's worthless. In Reformed, Amethyst gets poofed multiple times while fighting a monster. And each time she regenerates into increasingly ridiculous forms. First she comes back with legs for arms, then as an exaggerated parody of Pearl, then as there's a bulky, muscle-bound version of herself. Each form is her trying to be what she thinks others want her to be. When Garnet criticizes her for not taking regeneration seriously, Amethyst explodes. "What do you want? Just tell me and I'll do that." This hits so hard because it's exactly what people pleasers do. We exhaust ourselves trying to guess what will make others happy, instead of figuring out what makes us happy. Steven makes a crucial observation. She can't figure it out because she doesn't want to think about herself. That's the real problem. Amethyst is so convinced she's wrong that she can't even imagine what right would look for her. After being forced to think about it for 4 hours, she finally regenerates as herself, just with small improvements that feel good to her. Garnet says it's perfectly. It's perfect. When Amethyst brushes off the compliment, Garnet explains that's why it's perfect. Because it's what feels right for her, not what she thinks others want. In Earthlings, Amethyst faces her ultimate test against Jasper, who represents everything she's been told she should be. Jasper is a perfect quartz. Big, strong, came out right. When she taunts Amethyst by saying, "You were fated to lose the moment you came out wrong," Amethyst initially tries to fight Jasper alone, trying to prove she's strong enough, but she gets completely destroyed. She tells Steven, "I can't win. No matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, she came out right, and I came out wrong." This is where Steven delivers the game-changing pep talk. That's just what Jasper thinks. Stop trying to be like Jasper. You're nothing like Jasper. You're like me, because we're both like nobody. And yeah, it sucks, but at least I've got you, and you've got me. This is when Amethyst finally gets it. She doesn't need to be like Jasper. She doesn't need to be perfect. According to someone else's standards, she just needs to be herself and accept the support of people who love her for who she is. They fuse into Smoky Quartz and absolutely demolish Jasper. And not because Amethyst became stronger, but because she stopped fighting against herself. Here's why this lesson is revolutionary and why society doesn't want you to learn it. We live in a world that profits from your insecurity. Every advertisement, every social media post, every improvement product is designed to make you feel like you're not enough as you are. You need to be thinner, richer, smarter, more productive, more successful, more like that influencer, more like your successful friend. Amethyst's story says, screw all that. She discovers that trying to be what others want is exhausting and impossible. There will always be someone bigger, stronger, more perfect according to arbitrary standards. But there's only one you, and that's actually your superpower. The controversial truth is that most of your flaws are actually features. Amethyst's messiness makes her relatable. Her loudness makes her fun. Her wrongness, according to homeworld standards, is exactly what makes her perfect for Earth. The things that you hate about yourself might be the things that others love most about you. But here's the hardest part. You have to stop waiting for permission to be yourself. You have to stop looking for external validation that you're enough. Amethyst's breakthrough comes when she stops asking, "What do you want me to be?" and starts asking, "What feels right to me?" This doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. Amethyst does make changes to her regenerated form, but they're changes that feel good to her, not changes designed to make others happy. That's the difference between self-improvement and self-hatred. Amethyst teaches us that you're enough, messy and perfect, wrong by someone else's standards and all. The people who matter will love you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. Amethyst shows us that being wrong can be your greatest strength, but Pearl proves that even the parts of you carved in stone can still change. Before I tell you about Pearl, please subscribe to our channel. Now let's get back to the video. Pearl. Pearl is a perfectionist warrior gem who served rose quartz during the rebellion against Homeworld. She's elegant, organized, and incredibly skilled with a spear. But she's also someone who gets completely stuck in the past, letting old pain and regrets control her present. Pearl thinks her identity is locked in stone, that she'll always be defined by her role as Rose's knight, her lost love, and her need to be useful. But that's exactly the trap she needs to escape. Pearl teaches us one of the most important lessons about personal growth. You are not sentenced to stay the same person forever. The past doesn't get to decide who you become. No matter how deeply you think your identity is carved in stone, you can always choose to grow beyond it. And honestly, this lesson is controversial because it means taking responsibility for changing instead of staying comfortable in familiar pain. In Sworn to the Sword, Pearl starts training Connie to be Steven's knight and protector. But here's why that's really happening. Pearl is trying to recreate her relationship with Rose through Connie and Steven. She teaches Connie to say, "I don't matter," and "I need to be able to protect you." She's literally trying to make Connie live out Pearl's past trauma. Pearl sings about how she lived for Rose, how she was willing to die for her, how everything she was revolved around protecting someone else. When Steven and Connie refuse to fight separately and insist on being a team, Pearl has a complete breakdown. She accidentally calls Steven Rose and screams, "Why won't you just let me do this for you, Rose?" This is Pearl at her most stuck. She's so trapped in her past identity as Rose's devoted knight that she can't imagine any other way to exist. She thinks love means self-sacrifice, that worth comes from being useful to someone more important. She's trying to pass this toxic mindset to Connie because it's the only way she knows how to be. In Mr. Greg, Pearl finally starts dealing with her grief about Rose choosing Greg and giving up her form to have Steven. She sings "It's Over, Isn't It?" on the hotel balcony, pouring out years of pain about feeling replaced and forgotten. You won, and she chose you, and she loved you. And she's gone. It's over, isn't it? Why can't I move on? This episode is huge because Pearl finally admits she's stuck. She's been holding on to this pain for over a decade, letting it poison her relationship with Greg. and limit her ability to connect with others. When Steven forces her and Greg to actually talk, they realize that they have way more in common than they thought. Both of them loved Rose. Both of them miss her. Both of them are trying to figure out how to live without her. The breakthrough moment is when Pearl and Greg dance together. It's not about forgetting Rose or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about choosing to move forward instead of staying trapped in old hurts. Pearl starts to see that she can honor her past with Rose while still building new relationships and experiences. It's powerful. In last one out of Beach City, we see Pearl actually putting this growth into practice. She decides to go to a rock concert, wear human clothes, and try new experiences. When she sees the pink-haired girl who reminds her of Rose, instead of getting lost in painful memories, she says, "I'm done thinking about the past. Tonight, I'm all about the future." This is revolutionary for Pearl. She's actively choosing to step outside her comfort zone, try new things, and define herself by who she wants to become, rather than who she used to be. When she accidentally runs a red light and gets chased by police, she doesn't fall apart. She embraces the chaos and even enjoys it. Amethyst tells her, "You're so hardcore!" And Steven points out, "You're a criminal now." Pearl responds, "I've been a criminal for 6,000 years. She's finally owning all parts of herself, past and present. The really powerful moment is when Pearl successfully talks to the mystery girl and gets her phone number. She approaches this new person as herself, weird, awkward, honest Pearl, instead of trying to be who she thinks she should be. She tells the girl, "My appearance is just a conscious manifestation of light, and I saved your planet and your species, and you're welcome." It's completely bizarre, but it's authentically Pearl. Here's why this lesson matters so much in real life. Most people are way more stuck in their past than they realize. You tell yourself, "I'm just not good at relationships," or "I'm not creative," or "I'm not brave," based on old experiences. You use your history as an excuse to avoid growth and stay in your comfort zone. Pearl shows us that identity is a choice, not a prison sentence. Yes, your past shaped you. Yes, traumatic experiences leave marks, but you get to decide what to do with all that. You can honor your history while still writing new chapters. You can acknowledge old pain while choosing new behaviors. The controversial truth is that staying stuck is often easier than growing. Growth requires admitting you were wrong about some things, letting go of familiar patterns, and risking failure. It's scary to discover who you might become if you stop limiting yourself based on who you used to be. Pearl teaches us that you're never too old, too set in your ways, or too damaged to reinvent yourself. The past you thought defined you? It's just one chapter in a much longer story. Pearl shows us that the path can shape you without owning you, but Connie proves us that real growth begins the moment you act, even when you're still afraid. Connie is Steven's best friend and the most normal person in a world full of magic and chaos. She wears glasses, well, used to. Loves books, plays tennis, and has super strict parents who schedule every minute of her day. But here's the thing about Connie. She's braver than almost anyone else in the show, precisely because she's scared and does the right thing anyway. Connie teaches us that real courage is about feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and then choosing to act anyway because something matters more than your comfort zone. And this lesson is controversial because society tells us that brave people don't get scared, which is complete nonsense. In Ocean Gem, Connie is still new to Steven's magical world when Lapis Lazuli steals the entire ocean and builds a massive water tower reaching into space. This is only Connie's second or third encounter with gem magic, and suddenly she's facing an angry water clone trying to drown her and watching Steven get carried off by a cosmic force. The key moment is when Connie chooses to stay. She could have run home to safety, told Steven this was too crazy, or let the adults handle it. Instead, she rides Lion into danger, asks smart questions about what's happening, and when Steven falls from the collapsing water tower, she and Lion portal jump to catch him mid-air. She tells him, "Grab my hand," while they're plummeting toward Earth. Connie is absolutely terrified throughout the episode. You can see it in her face and hear it in her voice, but she doesn't let fear control her decisions. She chooses loyalty to Steven over personal safety. In Lion 2, the movie, Connie starts the episode feeling insecure about how boring her life is compared to Steven's adventures. When Lion takes them to Rose's secret armory instead of the movies, Connie is scared and out of place. She says, "I get the feeling I'm not really supposed to be here." But when the security robot attacks with fire, ice, and lightning, Connie doesn't freeze up. She helps Steven use Rose's sword to fight back, applying her tennis skills to deflect the robot's attacks. She guides Steven's hand on the sword and calls out forehand, backhand, overhead death strike as they destroy the robot together. The beautiful thing about this episode is that Connie realizes her normal skills matter. Her tennis training becomes combat training. Her book knowledge helps her think strategically. She's just not trying to be a magical warrior. She's being herself in a magical situation. And that's enough. In Nightmare Hospital, Connie faces her biggest fear of all, disappointing her mother and losing control of her carefully managed life. When gem cluster mutants attack the hospital, Connie has to choose between following her mother's rules and saving everyone's lives. This episode is huge because Connie doesn't just face physical danger. She faces emotional and social consequences. She knows that if she reveals that she's been sword fighting and hanging out with magical beings, her mother will probably never let her see Steven again. But when the mutants are about to hurt her mom, Connie grabs Rose's sword anyway. She tells her mother, "I know how to do this, and you don't know me at all." These aren't easy words for a kid with controlling parents. Connie is terrified of the confrontation, but she chooses honesty and action over safety and approval. Here's why Connie's lesson matters so much in real life. Most people think courage means you stop being afraid once you're brave enough. That's garbage. Real courage is feeling scared and doing the right thing anyway. Again and again. Every time it matters. Think about it. Steven has magical powers and destiny on his side. The gems are immortal warriors, but Connie, she's just a human kid with strict parents who chooses to stand with her friends, and when things get dangerous, that takes way more guts than having superpowers. The controversial truth is that society teaches us to avoid fear instead of working with it. We're told to stay in our comfort zones, not rock the boat. Let other people handle difficult situations. Connie shows us that growth only happens when you're willing to be comfortable and scared. Every time Connie faces something new and frightening, she asks questions, adapts her existing skills, and commits to helping people she cares about. She doesn't pretend she's not scared. She doesn't wait until she's feeling ready. She just does what needs to be done. This applies to everything in real life. Speaking up against bullying, trying new things, standing up to authority figures, making new friends, defending your values. The fear never goes away completely, but courage means you stop letting fear make your decisions for you. Connie teaches us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, not by becoming fearless, but by choosing something more important than their fear. And in a world that often feels overwhelming and scary, that might be the most important lesson of all. The next time you're afraid to do something you know is right, remember Connie grabbing that sword and saying, "I know how to do this." Be scared. Do it anyway. Connie shows that real courage means acting even when you're scared, and Greg shows us that real love means showing up when you're not ready. Greg is Steven's dad, a washed-up musician who lives in a van behind a car wash and somehow managed to win the heart of an immortal space goddess. He's got long hair, plays guitar, and constantly feels like he's messing everything up. But here's the thing about Greg. He proves that you don't need to be perfect, rich, or have your life together to love someone completely. Greg teaches us the most important lesson about relationships and life. Love is about showing up, staying present, and giving what you have even when you feel totally lost. This lesson is controversial because society tells us we need to fix ourselves before we can love others properly, which is complete nonsense. In Story for Stephen, we see young Greg as a struggling musician playing to empty audiences and barely making enough money for food. When he meets Rose, he's literally the least impressive person imaginable. No fame, no money, living in a van, eating trash fries. His manager Marty tells him he's making a huge mistake by choosing love over a potential career. But Greg makes the boldest decision possible. When Rose tries to send him away to pursue his dreams, he tells her, "You're everything I want." He doesn't wait until he's successful or stable. He doesn't try to become someone worthy of her love. He just offers himself exactly as he is. A broke musician with big dreams and a bigger heart. The beautiful thing is that Rose falls for him precisely because he's genuine. He doesn't pretend to be more than he is or try to impress her with fake confidence. He's just honest about his feelings and committed to what matters to him. That's way more attractive than any amount of success or status. In Greg the Babysitter, Greg gets thrown into caring for baby sour cream with zero preparation or experience. He has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't know how babies work. He's never changed a diaper, and he panics when sour cream climbs the Ferris wheel. When Rose asks why he let the baby do something dangerous, Greg realizes, oh man, I am a baby, meaning he needs the help and guidance too. But here's what matters. Greg doesn't run away or give up, even though he feels completely unprepared. He stays with sour cream, keeps him mostly safe, and actually has fun with him. He applies sunscreen, puts sunglasses on him, and tries to show him how to have a good time at the beach. Greg may not know how the right way to babysit, but he approaches it with care and attention. The episode ends when Greg deciding to get a job at the car wash because he realizes he needs to grow up and take responsibility. But he doesn't wait until he's mature enough to care about others. He learns responsibility through the act of caring itself. In Drop Beat Dad, Greg watches Marty manipulate sour cream and completely ruin his rave with a terrible soda promotion scheme. Greg could have stepped in earlier and tried to warn sour cream, but he lets the situation play out because he knows sour cream needs to learn about his father himself. When Marty abandons sour cream again, Greg doesn't try to give advice or fix everything. He just stays present and supportive. When Yellowtail brings Sour Cream's DJ equipment back and encourages him to play, Greg celebrates with them. He tells Steven even if he doesn't make it big, Sour Cream will be okay, as long as he's doing something that makes him happy. Greg demonstrates that being a good parent or friend is about showing up consistently, supporting others' dreams even when you don't understand them, and caring more about their happiness than their success. Here's why this lesson is revolutionary. In real life, most people think they need to wait until they're ready to love someone. Until they've got their career figured out, their mental health perfect, their finances stable, their life completely organized. This is a trap that keeps people isolated and prevents real connection. Greg shows us that love is a practice, not a qualification. You learn how to be a good partner, parent, or friend by actually doing it, making mistakes and staying committed anyway. The people who wait until they feel qualified to love others often end up waiting forever. The controversial truth is that most of the best relationships happen between people who are both figuring things out together. Perfect people don't exist, and if they did, they'd probably be boring. What matters is finding someone who will grow up with you, support your dreams, and stick around when things get messy. Greg proves that you can be broke, confused, and making it up as you go along while still being an amazing partner and a father. Steven turns out great, not because Greg had everything figured out, but because Greg loved him unconditionally and stayed present through all of life's chaos. The next time you feel like you're not ready for love, remember Greg choosing Rose over fame, or Greg learning to babysit through trial and error. You don't need to be perfect to love someone perfectly. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.